not a game, it's a rich thing.
What's up, y'all? It is Tasha. We are back with the final episode of Ready to Love, y'all. I have made it through my first Ready to Love season, okay? And this show, I probably should not have started at season 8 because I feel like it was better in the earlier seasons. But we're going to talk about the episode because they jam-packed, I feel like, a lot in this last episode. And quite frankly, the meetings of the families for the women, we could have done without. But before we jump into the episode, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you are new here, please hit the like, comment in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel. If you are not new, welcome back. Y'all already know how we get down. Keep the conversation going in the comment section below. All right, now we can jump into the episode, season 8, episode 12 of Ready to Love. So the episode opens with the men and women coming together. Moria and Kat recap the last date that they had, and he's the only one left with 2 connections. How do we get here with Moria being the one that is choosing between 2 women? I am still confused, and I don't know how we got here with that, but okay. He says he has a tough decision to make. We see Quentin talking to Jessica. He's talking about his connection with Janelle, blah blah blah. Tommy shows up and lets them know it's time for the family brunch, and he is basically proud of them for staying the course, and he thinks that they are all ready to love. And I say, yeah, they're ready to love somebody, just not the people that are here on this show. But I digress. He then lets them know it's time to know if their connection with the person that they have chooses them as well. But before that, the men get to meet the families of the women, and they then get to pick a time and place where they will actually make their final decisions. And the whole time I'm like, so we just gonna ignore the fact that Lee just walked away. Nobody's gonna share that Lee made a decision to choose herself. We just gonna ignore that Lee is no longer here and act like she was actually voted off by the men. Okay. So Janelle says that, when you are faced with love, it can be very terrifying because not that it's a bad thing, but you just don't want to mess it up. And I can agree with Janelle on that one thing. Okay. Aries asks Phil how he is feeling. He says he's only worried about how he can support her, and that's where he is centered right now. She appreciates him for being very understanding because of where she is emotionally with the passing of her dad. She's like, anything could happen right now, and I'll be ready to cry and break down. And with her just saying that, I'm like, girl, this wasn't a good time for you to find out if you was ready for love and being in a relationship with somebody. Like, you are still too fragile from the passing of your dad and the grieving process, I believe, in my opinion, to then have somebody else enter your life right now, because a relationship in itself can be very emotional. If you are already emotional from the passing of your dad, like, girl, you topple that on top of any little discrepancy that may happen in a relationship, and it's going to be over before you even get the chance to really start. So Aries, you probably should just take a step back in this whole process. But she says she can't deny their connection, but she's really being intentional, and she still has some concerns about his stability. Aries, at this point in the episode, I wanted to say, if you were just going to date the man and find out in 6 months or a year if the stability is what you think it is. We don't need to make the decision right now on how it looks in the future, because it may not even get there. The longer y'all date, you may realize, you know what, after all, we ain't even for each other, and we don't even have to go down that road. But also, dating is just that. So y'all can still date for a year, and break up. You don't have to stay together just because you've been together for a year. So girl, like, again, don't overthink it, child. So the first date that is up is Janelle and Quentin, and he is meeting her cousin Courtney, which is the guy. She tells Courtney about Q and that he really makes her happy. Quentin says he is confident walking into the date because their connection has always been strong. They talk about, the meeting of some of his family because family is very important to him. Courtney asks his age, and he tells him that he is 34. So he's pretty taken aback, and he's like, well, how do you feel about her being a little bit older? And he's like, oh, I really don't think about it. But then, of course, he then brings up, wanting to have children. And it's like, y'all continue to act like that's not a big deal. But she is about to be, I believe, 42. The reality of that is, if she wants to have 3 children, that's a minimum of 40 times 3, 120 weeks of just being pregnant. We're not talking about trying to have the baby, the recovery time. That's just 120 weeks of being pregnant. Okay. All right. Okay, just making sure we're all on the same page. But Janelle is basically like, because Quentin says he wants to have 3 children. Janelle is like, this is the first time I've heard of him wanting to have 3. And unless it's triplets right out the gate, I can pretty much tell you, Playboy, it ain't gonna happen. Again, why do they keep ignoring this huge red flag? To me, children, religion, those are pretty much non-negotiable. Stop breezing it over like it's going to work itself out, because the issue that y'all have as far as the age, that's something that's not going to change. It's not going to change. So you got to address it. Like, y'all are getting on my nerves. Quentin says he really still needs to think about if having the 3 kids is something he is willing to leave off the table. You already seem like it's not. So why do we keep acting like it's up for debate? He then leaves, and Janelle asks Courtney how he feels about Quentin, and he says, how do you feel about the whole children thing? And she basically tells him, again, having 3 kids is not happening. And she says in order for that to happen, they will have to fall in love and get married tomorrow. And I said, well, that ain't going to happen. So what else is going on? Like, stop talking about and thinking about these fictitious things that are not going. This is not the reality of the situation you are in, sweetie. Neither one of y'all, okay? So next up is Kat and her cousin Monica. She is meeting Morier. Kat hopes that she can point out the red or the green flags with Morier. She tells him a little bit about him, tells her that he has 1 child, and the cousin is like, girl, you too cute to be a stepmama. Excuse me, Monica? I ain't really was feeling it for Monica, but we gonna talk about it. Anyway, Morier shows up, and the cousin is like, okay, like you can see all on her face. She is like, this is the man you wanted me to meet, Kat? Girl, I guess so. We gonna roll with it. But Morier asks Monica about herself. She says that her and Kat are 2 peas in a pod, and they are really close. Monica then asks Morier where he is from, born and raised in Dallas. And she's like, so do you see yourself living here for the rest of your life? He's like, no, I'm, already in the works of basically moving out of the country. Cousin Monica is shocked, and she is shocked that then Kat kind of agrees and sees herself. I would be okay moving out of the country and going back and forth. And the cousin is like, say what now? We have never talked about this. How now? Are you okay with this? Morier tells her basically that once his son turned 12, he will be with him full time. Again, Monica is taken aback. And Morier says that he and his ex have already agreed on that. As far as the relationship with him and his ex, he says they do everything together regarding the child. And Monica's like, so it's like y'all are still together. No, Monica, it's not like they're still together. It's like they have a healthy co-parenting relationship. Now, whether that's the reality and the truth or not, that's not my decision to make. I'm going off what they are discussing about on this show right here. And no, Monica, that's not like them still being together. That's like them being grown-ups and being able to do what's in the best interest of their child, as they should, okay? They talk about, what if his child doesn't really feel Kat, or the mother of the child doesn't really feel Kat like that. He says, not to sound some kind of way, but I have control over that situation. And that seems to be a red flag for Monica. And I don't know how to feel about it, because for me, definitely my kids not liking my partner is a red flag for me. And I would not be able to move forward if they have genuine concerns about the person I'm going to be with and have them around. So I was not really feeling Maury on that answer, because it's like you just can't ignore your child and what they may feel about the person that you will have them around, especially at the age of 10, 11, 12, before they are grown, like 18 or 21. You really have to think about the person that you will have around your children. So then Monica asks Morier to stand up, and he's kind of like, stand up? And she's like, yeah. So he stands up, and then she asks Kat to stand up, and Kat is like, oh, so you want to see the height difference? So of course they have a height difference, because Kat is really tall. The cousin asks, how does that make him feel? He says, it doesn't make me feel any kind of way, because I like to climb trees. And she's like, well, what if she wants to climb a tree? He said, we have plenty of branches to deal with that as well. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But like I said, Monica, the cousin, was kind of annoying and getting on my nerves. If Kat ain't worried about the height difference, why do you have an issue with the height difference? But we know this is for play anyway, so let's keep playing. But he leaves. Monica says the baby mama situation and living abroad really has concern, and she is not a fan of Morier, to put it nicely. So next up is Aries. It is the meeting with her mom, her sister, and Philip. And child, this day right here, ghetto. Philip shows up with flowers, but he only brings two. And he's like, I'm kind of short one. I guess he thought it was only going to be one person and not two. So he gives the flowers to Aries and her mom. Her mom asks about his leadership qualities and how he feels about decision making. And he says he will always ask, her what she thinks before just jumping in and make decisions. She's a smart woman, so he would love to have her feedback. Aries then says in her confessional that is an interesting perspective because that's what partnership is. But for her family, that is the worst answer. I was like, make it make sense, because why would that be a bad answer that he would want to consider your thoughts and feelings before making judgments about you guys' family? Okay. Her mom asks about him going to church, and he says no, he does not go to church, but he does believe in God, and he seems to follow Buddhism. I believe it's what he said, but he doesn't really follow a specific religion, but he is open to Christianity because Aries is a Christian. So the mom was like, okay, so that means you can pray, so go ahead and pray. So she has him pray over the food, and after he prays over the food, before he even prays over the food, the mama makes a comment of like, yeah, because we like a man who can lead. And then he prays over the food, and then he doesn't say in Jesus' name. And she then has to be shady and says in Jesus' name. And Phil catches it, and so do I. And I'm like, girl, that was not even called for, but I guess we are here now. He is asked what makes him happy, and he says he really enjoys stand-up comedy. Her sister asks if those jokes are financially lucrative. Y'all already know Aries told her sister what was happening and needed sister to ask the questions, okay? And he says, no, not when you first start out. I haven't done this in years. But then he also just kind of wraps up and says he has to leave to go check on his mom. But he says he really doesn't feel like any positive energy was exchanged, and he really felt the eyes of judgment the moment he walked in, and I would agree. His mama tells Aries, at this age, you really have to have, your finances together and have a strong financial foundation. And the face that her sister's making, she's like, as far as that question about, leading and getting your thoughts and stuff, she didn't think that was a positive. And I am, again, baffled as to why, yes, a man leading is one thing, but also a part of a man leading is getting the feedback and, thoughts of his partner before he makes a decision. Like, I am just so confused as to why that's not a good thing, okay? I don't know. But most importantly, they asked her what her dad would think about Philip, and everybody's like, and the mama is basically like, that would be a no from your dad if I had to talk for him. But Aries says she needs to think about what her family said because there is validity in what they said, and she really needs to think about what is right for her. So next up is Jessica meeting with Morier, and her cousin is meeting him because she says her cousin is divorced and has a child. So I guess that makes her somebody that's going to give her good feedback. Morier walks in with another terrible outfit. Like, child, this red and white striped outfit he has on. I said, sir, are we going to the circus? This man cannot dress for ish. And I need whoever he ends up with to really guide him and teach him on how to dress for his body, child. Because the outfits he has worn throughout this whole season, some of them could be quite questionable. But anyway, the cousin asks how he would handle basically Jessica being a boss. And Morier says, as a boss myself, I'll be fine with it. And I'm still confused as to what Morier does. What does he do that he's a boss? I don't know. But they talk about her fixing his plate like that. I guess that was a big deal for her. Her cousin asks about his short-term goals with work, and he says he wants to have another restaurant, and she's like, how does that work in with your time management? And he's like, well, hopefully I will plan to have a floor manager so that I don't have to be there all the time. They ask if Jessica then has the time, and she says, we basically make time for what they want. This whole process has been time consuming, but if it's what you really want, you will make time for it. Morier is then asked by the cousin about his long-term goals for his personal life, and he says he wants to be married in the next 2 to 3 years, and he says that he has really done the work on himself, and he really just yearns to have the marriage and family part. Jessica says that they truly connect on an intellectual level, and she's excited to see what the future has in store for them. They say they have a great connection. The cousin asks, but is this your only connection? And he's like, no. And she's like, Okay, and Moria says he really has to think about, now that he's met the families of both of his connections, really trying to figure out which he both fits, which he both fits in. And Jessica says she is really nervous because she is not sure what Moria's decision is going to be. Now it's time to make the big decision, y'all. They recap how some of the episodes have been and how this whole process has worked thus far. So first up, we see Aries and Philip. He shows up with flowers, and it looks to be another gift in a little box. Then we flip over to Quentin. He's walking with flowers for Janelle. He says that their connection has always been the strongest, but now his biggest concern is their age gap. Sir, this age gap has been present the entire season. I'm not sure now why it's a concern for you. She has not gotten any younger throughout this whole time, but okay. Back to Aries and Philip. He says he's glad they have made it to this day. He says, there may be some things that are still misunderstood in terms of how stable he is, but he is stable. And that concern of his ultimately makes it a concern of, that concern of hers ultimately makes it a concern for him. But he says overall they have a great time with each other. But in the box is also a gift. It's a gift of a baseball with a heart etched in it, because her dad was a professional baseball player. So he's like this kind of a symbol of your dad being with you throughout this whole process. And he says that through their journey together, now he ultimately chooses her. Moria then shows up with flowers. He has finally put on a decent outfit, child, in this scenario, but he says that he and Jessica have had a strong connection since day one, but his connection with Kat came later on, but they connect spiritually. But he says he has made a decision on basically who he wants to be with. He has to see if that decision aligns with the person that he chooses. We see a set of legs and shoes. We don't yet know if it is Kat or Jessica at this moment in the episode, but child, we already know it's gonna be Jessica. Like, it's obvious that he was not gonna pick Kat. Even though they continue to act like this religion thing is not an issue. Y'all like it, I love it, okay? And then we finally see who it is, and of course, ding, 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 it is Jessica. Surprise, surprise. But she says she has to now make a decision on basically if she chooses him and she chooses to stay in Dallas, or she will go ahead on to the motherland with Moria. But he says his relationship with Kat was more on a friendship level, which is why he did not choose her. He tells Jessica that throughout this process, they have seen real relationship moments and they get each other. And in this moment, he chooses her. Back over to Quentin and Janelle. He tells her that he's always excited to see her. He loves to see the smile on her face. And today he chooses her, and he would love to see where this goes. But he says he still has concern about the kids, but he is open to adoption. Quentin, can you please make up your mind? Are you cool with possibly adopting 3 kids? Are you cool with her having 1 child and y'all might be adopting 1 child? Are you cool with her having all 3 children from you naturally? Like, you keep going back and forth as if this is like y'all choosing, an outfit to wear at a party. Like, these are children we are talking about. Like, I'm just gonna be quiet because I'm tired of it. So back over to Aries and Philip. She tells him that they do have a connection, and there are still some things out there that doesn't give her the confidence that she would need. So in this moment today, she is choosing herself because there's just more concerns that are there, and she essentially acts like she needs to have more respect for her mate. And I was just kind of like, what? Where's that coming from? Philip looks completely heartbroken in this moment, like he is definitely fighting back tears. But in his confessional, he says that it's okay because he definitely needs someone that will respect him. She says she does respect him, but she knows what type of leader she needs, and she is not going to settle. And over the past couple episodes, I feel like I knew this was going to happen, that she was not going to choose him, because whatever this issue with stability that she feels that she never either got complete clarity on, or she still does not feel confident in whatever answer Philip has given her because she just kept talking about it. I knew their connection was basically over with. But Phil says he's learned a lot about himself, and he is a better version of himself because of this process. over back with Jessica and Morier, she thanks him because when they came to an impasse between, you know, their religion and spirituality views, that they really found a common ground. And I was like, well, what was the common ground? Like, how did y'all come to a common ground on that? And I would really like the details, because that was very interesting to me, okay? Because it just seemed like they were butting heads about that ever since, you know, she met his ex. And I just don't know how you come to a common ground on religion and spirituality when both of y'all seem so firm in what you believe and how you want to live your life. But okay, but she ends up telling him that she chooses him as well, gives him a hug, he kisses her on the forehead, and I'm like, if y'all have such a connection, wouldn't this be the moment that we at least get a real kiss from y'all? If y'all don't get this fake couple off of my TV, child, please. Anyway, lastly, we have Janelle and Quentin. She says she is happy that she went through this process with him, and he has awakened some things in her that she didn't know was there. And just the way they looked at each other when she said that, I said, y'all have definitely smashed. Y'all can tell us all the lies y'all want, act like this is the first kiss y'all about to have, but y'all have smashed, okay? Y'all have done the do, all right? But she says she feels like that he gets her, and he really understands her, and she chooses him as well. They kiss like they actually like each other, and she says, ooh, we have just been waiting for this kiss. Okay, girl, sure, y'all have been waiting to kiss for the first time. But Q says their connection has been nothing but easy, and she says she hopes they can have a very beautiful fairy tale love story. Child, I feel like her and Jessica, because they were cool, they just made a pact that we gonna make it to the end regardless, and we gonna say yes to whatever man is sitting there waiting for us. No matter how many red flags are waving in the air, we are going to say yes so that we can say we ended this show successfully. I guess, y'all, but this was some mess, because none of these people should have ended up together, in my opinion. But that's where we have landed with the end of season 8 of Ready to Love. Next week we get the reunion, child, and I'm gonna be here for the mess. Okay, so meet me back here next week, and we are gonna chat about this reunion, because I cannot wait for everybody to come back and for us to get messy. But let me know what y'all thought about the episode in the comment section below, and I will catch y'all next time.